Okay.
All right, so Amendment 2. Who read the first one? I forgot already. Okay, Karen, can you read number 2, please?
A well-regulated, how do you say that again?
Militia.
Militia being necessary to the security of a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed.
Okay, so, who wants to go first? Putting that in their own words. This one's definitely a little bit more like plain English, so.
Yeah, I guess it just means that.
Well, actually, can you start with the first part, a well-regulated militia? What do we think that means?
A regulated military?
Yes, yeah, being necessary. Okay, so it's like basically saying though that we're gonna have like a formal military. It's not like we live in Salisbury, so we're gonna have the Salisbury militia, and potentially if you came from Fruitland, you'd have to deal with our rules and our military and our laws. It's not like each individual place has their own militia. That would be like chaotic, and it's kind of more like the way it was, and so this is more like one formalized military that is controlled, regulated. They have rules. They can't just do what they want. I did that one. Like you guys don't know. But okay, you'll definitely be able to know, do the next one. The next part of it, please.
I guess it's the right to have guns
Mm-hmm.
or protection.
And it shall not.
Be infringed.
And what did we say infringe was? Like, yeah, like they can't like take it away. I don't really want to say limit it because there are limits, right? I mean, for instance, in Maryland, we passed a law recently that said you couldn't have like the high capacity, like AK-47s and things like that. So there are actually limits to it. But this is protecting it so it can't be taken away. Ready to move on to 3?
No soldier shall in time of peace be quartered in any house without the consent of the owner, nor in time of war, but in a manner to be prescribed by law.
Okay. What do you think? In our own words.
They can't let soldiers into your house without the owner letting them?
Yeah. They can't just show up at your door and say, I'm going to be staying here for the next few months. That was good that you got the consent of the owner part because technically it's in there. Like, they'd have to get permission. We flew through this. Okay. Amendment 4.
The right of the people to be secure in their persons, houses, papers, and effects against unreasonable searches and seizures shall not be violated, and no warrant shall issue but upon probable cause, supported by oath or affirmation, and particularly describing the place to be searched and the persons or things to be seized.
Okay. All right. Let's start with that one. Let's start with, I'm going to read the part. The right of the people. This right shall not be violated. Okay, they should be secure in their persons, houses, papers, and effects. other stuff against unreasonable search and seizures. So that part in our own words, please.
A person's belongings and personal belongings can't be searched and taken without probable cause.
And property.
Yes.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, you put in the probable cause part. Okay, good. We kind of clear on the probable cause part. I mean, I know that part's a little bit vague, but quite frankly, it was vague then, and it's still vague today. I mean, there are plenty of people who would not agree that said police officer had probable cause. Okay. Basically, the other parts where it says no warrant shall be issued, I mean, that basically means they're gonna charge you if it's unreasonable. And then supported by oath, affirmation. That's basically saying, what do you think? It relates to this probable cause part.
I guess it just means like without reason.
Yeah, I mean the cop has to have, they have to have some kind of reason, and they're basically saying, you know, we are going to give you the benefit of the doubt here, if you are the law and you're saying that there's a good reason, but you have to at least do that. You have to declare that there's a good reason, and you have to say what it is, and then it goes on to, and this is part, you know, you put this or not, but particularly describing the place and the persons or things to be seized. So, you know, they basically are just trying to make sure that the law, you know, really covers their bases, dots their I's, crosses their T's. They don't just go in and start taking stuff. All right. Oh, we're really going through fast. Faster than I thought we were going to. Okay, Amendment 5. Big one. Can somebody read it, and then we'll go through it sort of chunk by chunk like we have been.
Okay. No person shall be held to answer for a capital or otherwise infamous crime unless on a presentment or indictment of a grand jury, except in cases arising on one hand or naval forces or in militia when in actual service in time of war or public danger.
Actually, stop there, because it's a big mouthful, and that one sort of all goes together. So that's the first part of it. Does someone want to try to tackle that one?
They can't hold you accountable for a big crime. Like they can't. But when it says they can't hold you accountable, does that mean like, well, they can't be held to answer? Does that mean like they can't like hold you somewhere?
Right? Without the grand jury.
Yes, that is exactly right. They can't just say you did it and that's that. I mean, they might be able to in the beginning while they're waiting for this grand jury and stuff, but basically what they're saying is you have to have this thing in place called the grand jury. And remember what I said a grand jury was, how it differs from a regular jury?
Yeah,
What's the purpose of a grand jury?
it makes it like they go over to see if there's enough evidence to go to court.
Exactly right. So, you know, in big cases like this, you have to start there. You know, it can't just be he said, she said, or something. So you need the grand jury. So, and then the next part really just, it sort of removes the military from that because they have their own rules. So that's all that next part is really doing, up to the part where we stopped. So, do you feel comfortable putting that part in your own words? Okay. And the next part, which we'll go to, stop after life or limb. So I'm gonna read that. The next part up to, oh, sorry. The next part up to life or limb.
Nor shall any person be subject for the same offense to be twice put in jeopardy of life or limb.
Okay, so what was that one?
You can be tried twice for the same crime.
For the same crime, right. So like, if the, cops or whatever thought you did something and you went to trial and like the jury said you didn't, that's it. That's done. They can't ever say you did that again. They can't like come back later and say, well, we have this new evidence or we have this or that. Like they really, there's one chance for something like that to happen. Okay. The next part, read until it says nor be deprived. So right after himself.
Okay. Nor be deprived of life.
Oops, I'm sorry. Can you start with nor shall be compelled?
Oh, okay. Nor shall be compelled in any criminal case to be witness against himself, nor be deprived of life, liberty, or property without due process of law, nor shall private property be taken for public use without just compensation.
Okay, so we'll break that into 3 parts. The first one being, nor shall be compelled in any criminal case to be a witness against himself. So how would you say that in your own words?
You can't be, well, you can't,
Testify against yourself?
yeah.
Compelled. They can't make you. They can't make you testify against yourself. That's perfect. All right, the next part, nor be deprived of life, liberty, or property without due process of law.
They can't take your stuff or your life or liberty.
Without a,
Probable cause or reason.
well, in this case, it's actually a trial. Like, you have to, and all the laws that surround that, like having a lawyer and, a jury of your peers and things like that, which might sort of sound familiar from either class or TV. Depending on what shows you're watching. And then the last part, nor shall private property be taken for public use without just compensation.
You can't take your stuff without giving you something in return.
Exactly. That's exactly it. Okay, we are ready to move on to Amendment 6, so we'll go through these one at a time while we still have some time together tonight. Anyone willing to start by reading Amendment 6?
I'll start.
Thank you.
In all criminal prosecutions, the accused shall enjoy the right to a speedy and public trial by an impartial jury of the state and district wherein the crime shall have been committed, which district shall have been previously ascertained by law and be informed of the nature and cause of the accusation, to be confronted with the witnesses against him, to have compulsory process for obtaining witnesses in his favor, and to have the assistance of counsel for his defense.
That is a lot of words to, it is saying a lot of intricate things, but well, let's just go through it part by part, and you'll actually see that it's really only saying like 3 things, but they just use a whole lot more words for it. So we don't have to read them all through. We'll go right from the amendment to your own word. So let's start right with the first part. I'm going to read the part that, okay. In all criminal prosecutions, the accused shall enjoy the right to a speedy and public trial. That's pretty self-explanatory, actually. By an impartial jury of the state and district wherein the crime shall have been committed. So you do have to say something, but basically it's like,
You don't have to wait around to be prosecuted.
exactly, yeah, they can't just like throw you in jail and come back, 2 years later and say, okay, we're ready for you. So yeah, and also they can't like, it says that in, of the state and district where the crime was committed. So, well, I'll let you write down that part first. So like, let's say Texas has harsher punishment than Maryland. Can they send you to be tried in Texas?
Mm-hmm.
No. If you did it here, you have to be tried here. So they have to keep you in state. And then the impartial jury part. Have you guys like seen any movies or shows where they pick a jury? Ever seen anything like that? You see how like they don't pick everyone? They'll sometimes excuse people. And it's like based on like, I'm sure it's very scientific to them, but basically what they're trying to do is craft a jury that they feel like is going to be fair to you. So they, try to make it, when they say a jury of your peers, like what does that mean? Like they would be
People
that are
your age.
that are like you. You know what I mean? They might not be exactly your age. They don't have to all be exactly like you, but they want to give you that. They want to say, okay, this person come from sort of the same kind of background, or maybe have a similar cultures or things like that. Like, if you had no one that was nothing like you on a jury, you could be like, that is not a fair and impartial jury. So, all right. Where were we? Speedy trial, impartial jury, and has to stay in the state. Alright. Which district shall have been previously ascertained by law to be informed of the nature. Okay, to be informed of the nature and cause of the accusation. What's that in a nutshell?
They have to tell you what you're being prosecuted for.
Yeah, I have to tell you what you were accused of. Just like imagine what they didn't. I mean, how awful would that be? You know what I mean? Like, it sort of really makes sense why people fought so hard for these things. They seem so basic to us now. Until you try to, like, put yourself back in where the law just did what they wanted. So they gotta tell you what you did. To be confronted with the witnesses against him.
I guess people will, there will be witnesses that go, they try against him, they testify against him.
I think this is a tricky one to put into your own words, because you know what it is, but it's hard to, say it. But, you have the right, if you're sitting there accused, to see and hear from the person that's accusing you. They can't just say, hey, we have this guy, and he says you did this. No. You know what I mean? That guy needs to stand there in a court of law in front of everybody and say exactly what it was that you're accused of. All right. To have compulsory process for obtaining witnesses in his favor. Well, compulsory, do you know what compulsory is? It means you have to do it. Okay. So this is basically where it's just saying you have to, there's a process and they have to follow it. I mean, it's, yeah. But now the last one, who can tell me what that was? And to have the assistance of counsel for his defense. What does that mean?
You have a lawyer?
Straight to a lawyer. 7.
That's okay. In suits at common law where the value in controversy shall exceed $20, the right of trial by jury shall be preserved, and no fact tried by a jury shall be otherwise re-examined in any court of the United States than according to the rules of the common law.
Okay. Let's start at the start. In suits at common law where the value of controversy shall exceed $20. Sure, it was a lot of money back then, right? Today I would probably have to say like, well, anyway. The right of trial shall be preserved. What do you think it's saying?
I guess if like someone destroyed something of yours that was worth more than $20, or they took something of yours.
The value in controversy, yes. You're getting it. Yeah, would have to have cost someone more than $20.
That's like a lot of clothes now.
It's not much. It's a low bar these days. The right of the trial by jury shall be preserved. So you still get you basically get to choose if you're accused of a crime. You could say, I want to put this in the hands of the judge, or no, I'd like to see what a jury of my peers thinks of this, because maybe a jury of your peers would sort of be understanding of the situation, and maybe you think that you'd have a better shot of them not finding you guilty, especially if it's those laws that aren't like quite so. Maybe you had a really good reason or something. Okay. And no fact tried by a jury shall be otherwise re-examined in any other court.
Is that like the same thing, like it can't be tried again?
Yeah, actually it is. I mean, yep. But yeah, they can't just say, well, the jury we didn't like their decision. We want a judge now to weigh in. So it's not necessarily like another full trial, like double jeopardy, but you cannot whine or complain about, about what the jury has said. Like, that's the final word. Okay, who will read 8? We are going to get through these actually.
Excessive bail shall not be required, nor excessive fines imposed, nor cruel and unusual punishments inflicted.
Alright, so that one would be a pretty easy one to put in our own words, but
They can't make your bail money like extremely ridiculous.
yeah, exactly. That they know you have no way of possibly affording. And it's the same with the excessive fines. But we'll talk about the cruel and unusual punishments a little. That one will be separate. So what about the cruel and unusual punishments? I mean, we know they can't do it, right?
Well, the punishments can't be like harmful to you, like they can't torture you or anything, right?
I mean, they can be harmful, but you're right. We have sort of established a baseline for what we feel is, humane treatment at this point. And they can't put you in stockades or things like that they used to do. Like, that's really torturous stuff. But that said, this idea of cruel and unusual punishment is changing. I mean, we used to like go and watch these things, these like public murders and stuff like that. Back then, we did not find that to be cruel and unusual, but today we do. So this is kind of fluid. Now, way back in the beginning, I mentioned who actually interprets these. So if someone said that their punishment was cruel and unusual, and they like took the government to court to address that grievance, right? Who might make the final and ultimate decision on whether that was a cruel and unusual punishment? So who's interpreting? It's one of our like legislative, or one of our, it's not the executive, and it's not the Congress. Yes, the Supreme Court. So they are going to interpret these. We're just going to go. Oh, you have to stop. That's right. How many is it? 3 minutes? Oh, okay. Okay. We're actually... Okay, so we'll get to the next two next time because my tape is about to end again. But, so just to like wrap this up for tonight, can you guys each tell me one thing that we talked about that either surprised you, made you glad, made you mad? Like what's something that stood out?
I thought it was strange that they could, like there was a time where soldiers could just walk into your house and
Right?
live there.
I know, that was surprising. Very glad that we don't have that anymore.
Yeah.
Karen?
That you can't be tried twice for the same crime. Like, I thought that's kind of weird. Like, if they find evidence later, they can't try you again for it?
No, not for the same crime. They would actually have to come up with new charges. Like, that's the thing, is if they okay, but they have quite a bit of wiggle room in there, because you know how like, or you may have like, depending on what you've read or seen, heard in school or watched on TV, it's not like there's just murder. There's murder in the 1st degree, the 2nd degree, the 3rd degree, there's manslaughter. So there's different variations of these things. So they can't just throw something to the wall and see if it sticks, but when it comes to that, if they came up with some sort of new evidence, they would have to actually charge you with an entirely new crime. So it just cannot be the exact same crime. And if it was too close, you might even be able to make an argument that they were, they couldn't do that. So, all right, well, we are done tonight. You are free. Thank you so much. And I'll see you in a couple of days, and you probably will definitely have been through the Bill of Rights by then, but we'll